Have you ever seen a teacher get fired on the spot? Mr. Davis was being escorted out of our school by two security guards and Principal Martinez at 11:30 on a Tuesday morning. I was walking back from the bathroom when I saw them marching him down the main hallway, his hands visibly shaking as he carried a small cardboard box with his personal belongings. The whole thing lasted maybe 3 minutes from his classroom door to the front entrance. He didn't look angry or confused like you'd expect someone getting fired to look. He looked absolutely terrified, like genuinely scared for his life. Principal Martinez was walking directly behind him with this grim, stone-faced expression I'd never seen before, and she kept glancing around nervously like she was worried other students might witness what was happening. Mr. Davis had been my chemistry teacher for 2 months since school started in September. He was young, maybe late 20s, fresh out of college with this nervous energy that actually made him pretty popular with students. He always stayed after class to help anyone who was struggling with the material and brought boxes of donuts every Friday morning. But looking back now, there had been increasingly weird things I'd noticed but hadn't really connected or thought deeply about. Like how he always kept his classroom door locked during lunch period, even when he was clearly inside eating at his desk. Most teachers left their doors wide open so students could drop by for extra help. He also had this compulsive habit of checking his phone constantly during class, which seemed really odd for someone who was usually so focused and passionate about teaching. Not just quick glances either, but actually reading long messages with this intense concentration that would make him completely forget what he was saying mid-sentence. The strangest behavior was how he reacted whenever any student got close to his desk area. He'd casually but deliberately move to block their view of his computer screen or quickly minimize whatever program he was working on. When Sarah dropped her pencil near his desk last week, he practically jumped out of his chair to pick it up for her, steering her away from that entire area. Then there were the mysterious after-school meetings that didn't add up. I had detention 2 weeks ago and saw him in the student parking lot at 6 p.m., talking to this well-dressed man in an expensive suit who definitely wasn't anyone from our school district. The conversation looked heated and intense, and when Mr. Davis spotted me watching through the detention room window, he immediately walked the guy to a black car parked around the corner. I asked him the next morning if everything was all right, and he got this paranoid look on his face and said he was just meeting with a concerned parent about potential tutoring opportunities. But the man was way too young to be anyone's parent, maybe in his early 30s, and he'd been wearing this expensive watch and driving what looked like a Mercedes. The final bizarre incident happened yesterday during 5th period chemistry. The fire alarm suddenly went off, which was strange because we'd already completed our mandatory monthly drill the week before. While everyone was filing out toward the emergency exits, I forgot my backpack and quickly ran back to grab it from my seat. Mr. Davis was still in the classroom, frantically shoving stacks of papers into a metal filing cabinet and locking it with a key. When he noticed me standing there, he looked absolutely panicked and told me to get outside immediately for safety. But as we walked toward the exit together, I heard him pull out his phone and make an urgent call. I distinctly heard him say something about needing more time, and that they couldn't do this yet, not until he'd finished something important. His voice sounded desperate and scared. This morning, instead of Mr. Davis teaching our first period class, we found a substitute teacher who introduced herself and said she'd be our permanent replacement. No explanation whatsoever about what had happened to him. When I directly asked where Mr. Davis was, she just said he was no longer employed with the school district and quickly changed the subject. But during lunch period, I overheard Principal Martinez having an intense phone conversation in her office. Her door was slightly cracked open and she was talking about criminal evidence and police involvement and how they'd discovered the files hidden on his personal computer. And that's when I finally realized what Mr. Davis had really been doing during all those locked classroom sessions. I stand frozen in the hallway outside Principal Martinez's office, my mind racing as the implications of what I'd just heard sink in. Files hidden on his personal computer, criminal evidence, police involvement, whatever Mr. Davis had been doing. It was serious enough to warrant immediate removal from the school. The bell rings, jolting me back to reality. I hurry to my next class, but the rest of the day passes in a blur. Whispers about Mr. Davis spread through the hallways like wildfire, everyone speculating about what happened. I heard he was dealing drugs to students, someone says during lunch. No way. My brother said he was caught stealing equipment from the science lab to sell online, another student counters. By the end of the day, Vice Principal Winters appears on the school's PA system with an announcement that stops everyone in their tracks. Attention students and staff, there have been rumors circulating regarding the departure of Mr. Davis. The administration will not be discussing personnel matters. Any discussion of Mr. Davis, or speculation about the circumstances of his departure is prohibited on school grounds. Thank you for your cooperation. The message is clear. Complete silence is being enforced. The next morning, I arrive early to school, curious to see what's become of Mr. Davis's classroom. What I find shocks me. Room 237 has been completely emptied overnight. The colorful periodic table posters, the molecular models hanging from the ceiling, his collection of science joke magnets all gone. Even the chemistry, its elemental sign that hung above his desk has vanished. The room looks sterile, like he was never there at all. Our substitute teacher, Miss Benson, arrives carrying a stack of worksheets. She's older, maybe mid-50s, with sharp eyes that scan the room as we file in. Good morning, class, she says briskly. As you know, I'll be your chemistry teacher for the remainder of the year. Please open your textbooks to page 94. During the lesson, Jake raises his hand. Miss Benson, What happened to Mr. Davis? Did he quit? Or, that's not relevant to today's lesson on chemical equations. She cuts him off, her voice cold. As I was saying, after class, I approach her desk. Miss Benson, I was wondering if Mr. Davis left any messages for his students. Or, young man, she interrupts, lowering her voice to a harsh whisper. I was explicitly instructed not to discuss the previous teacher under any circumstances. This conversation is over. Her eyes dart nervously to the door where, I notice with surprise, Vice Principal Winters is standing, watching us. He nods at me curtly. Don't you have a class to get to? In the hallway, I spot Sarah by her locker. She's been unusually quiet since yesterday, keeping her head down and avoiding eye contact with everyone. When she sees me approaching, she quickly shoves something into her backpack. Hey, Sarah, I say casually. Pretty weird about Mr. Davis, right? She flinches at the mention of his name. I don't know anything, she says too quickly, her voice trembling slightly. I need to get to class. Wait, I say, lowering my voice. I just wanted to ask if you're okay. You seem… Leave it alone, she hisses, glancing nervously over her shoulder. They're watching everyone who was in his class, especially me. Her eyes are wide with fear, and I notice dark circles underneath them, like she hasn't slept. Before I can respond, she slams her locker shut and hurries away, disappearing into the crowd of students. During lunch, I notice something strange. Principal Martinez and 3 other administrators are patrolling the cafeteria, moving between tables with purpose. At a table near mine, Martinez approaches a group of juniors who quickly put their phones away. Cell phones out during lunch are subject to search, she announces loudly enough for everyone to hear. School policy. One student protests weakly, but Martinez holds out her hand. Phone, now. Reluctantly, the student hands it over. Martinez scrolls through it, her expression darkening. Come with me, she tells the student, pocketing his phone. The rest of you, phones away. By 7th period, the rumor mill has shifted. Now everyone's talking about how Martinez confiscated 3 more phones from students who were texting about Mr. Davis. Apparently, she's checking social media accounts too. In English class, Tara whispers to me from the desk behind mine. Did you see what they did to Ethan's phone? They took it because he posted about Davis on Snapchat. When they gave it back, all his social media apps were gone. After the final bell rings, I head toward my locker, still trying to process everything. The school feels different now, tense, like everyone's walking on eggshells. As I round the corner, I spot Sarah again, this time talking in hushed tones with Principal Martinez. Sarah looks pale, nodding repeatedly as Martinez speaks to her with intense focus. When Sarah notices me watching, she abruptly ends her conversation and walks away, clutching her backpack tightly against her chest. Martinez turns and makes direct eye contact with me, her gaze cold and calculating. Everything all right? She asks, but it doesn't sound like a question. Yes, ma'am, I reply automatically. Good. It's important we all focus on moving forward, she says. Whatever you think you know about Mr. Davis, I suggest you forget it. Some things are better left alone, especially by students who value their academic future. The threat in her words is barely concealed. As she walks away, I notice a school security guard watching me from down the hall. When I look directly at him, he doesn't even pretend not to be staring. That night, I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see Mr. Davis's terrified face as they escorted him out. I keep thinking about Sarah's strange behavior and the way she was clutching her backpack. What was she hiding? And why is the school going to such extreme lengths to silence any mention of Mr. Davis? Whatever he was doing in that locked classroom during lunch periods, whatever was on his computer that warranted police involvement, it's clear the school is desperate to keep it quiet. But based on Sarah's frightened expression, she knows something important, something she's afraid to share. And I'm starting to think that finding out what that is might be dangerous for all of us. I wait until Thursday to approach Sarah, catching her alone in the library during study hall. Her shoulders tense when I slide into the chair across from her. I'm not talking about it, she says immediately, eyes darting toward the librarian's desk. Sarah, please. The whole school feels wrong. They've wiped away every trace of him, and now they're monitoring our phones? Something seriously messed up is happening. She stares at her textbook, knuckles white as she grips her pencil. You don't understand what you're getting into. Then help me understand, I whisper. I saw you with Principal Martinez. What did she say to you? Sarah finally looks up, her eyes rimmed with red. Meet me behind the gym after school. Not here. Too many eyes. The rest of the day crawls by. When the final bell rings, I take a circuitous route to avoid the security cameras I've suddenly become aware of in every hallway. Sarah is already waiting, pacing nervously. I shouldn't be telling you this, she says immediately, but I can't sleep. I keep seeing his face when I close my eyes. What happened when you dropped your pencil? I ask. She takes a deep breath. It wasn't an accident. I'd been watching him for weeks, the way he'd lock his classroom during lunch, how he'd angle his computer away from students. So I created a distraction to see what was on his screen. And? Student files. Not normal ones, photos, personal information, schedules. When I dropped my pencil, I saw folders with student initials. Mine was there. Her voice cracks. He caught me looking and panicked. The next day, he offered me money to take photos of certain students during lunch and after school. My stomach drops. Did you do it? Once, she admits, eyes welling with tears. He gave me $200 cash, said it was for a special project, tracking student engagement patterns. I knew it was wrong, but my mom's been sick. And the medical bills, she wipes her eyes. After I took the photos, I saw him transfer them to a flash drive and hand it to that man with the Mercedes. That's when I realized whatever they were doing was bigger than just Davis. Did you report him? I tried. I went to Principal Martinez last week, but but she dismissed me completely, said I was making serious accusations without proof. Then the fire alarm went off the next day, and when we came back, Davis acted like nothing happened. But I could tell he was panicking. The alarm was a distraction, I realize. He was destroying evidence. Sarah nods. After they took him away, Martinez called me to her office, told me if I valued my academic future, I'd forget everything I saw. Said colleges don't accept students who make false accusations against teachers. I feel sick. That sounds like a threat. It was, but that's not all. She lowers her voice further. When Davis was escorted out, he whispered something to me as he passed. He said ventilation great, back row, and then they pushed him out the door. That night, I wait until the janitors finish their rounds before sneaking back into the school through the gym doors that never lock properly. The hallways are eerily silent as I make my way to Davis's former classroom. Inside, I use my phone's flashlight to examine the ventilation grate in the back row. It's loose. My fingers tremble as I pry it open, reaching inside until I feel something plastic, a flash drive. At home, I plug it into my laptop. It contains dozens of encrypted folders, each labeled with student initials. I recognize some of them popular students, athletes, kids from wealthy families. I try opening a few, but they're all password protected. One folder isn't encrypted though. It contains a spreadsheet with dates, initials, and dollar amounts ranging from $500 to $5,000. The most recent entry is from Monday, the day before Davis was fired. Next to it is a note, final payment received, complete dossier transfer tomorrow. Whatever Davis was selling, it was worth thousands. I'm still staring at the screen when an email notification pops up. Anonymous sender, no subject line. The message contains just 9 words. Stop looking. Delete everything. They're watching you now. My blood runs cold as I look toward my bedroom window. The curtains are open, and for a split second, I swear I see a shadow move across my front lawn. I shut my laptop and back away from it like it might explode. Who sent that email? How did they know what I was doing? And more importantly, who are they? I think about the well-dressed man with the expensive watch and Mercedes, about Principal Martinez's thinly veiled threats, about the security guards, monitoring hallway conversations and confiscating phones. This isn't just about a teacher getting fired anymore. Davis was collecting information on students and selling it to someone. The school administration knows about it and is actively covering it up, and now they know I'm looking into it. I text Sarah, found flash drive, contains student files plus payment records. Just got warning email. What should we do? Her response comes quickly. Delete everything. Not safe to talk about this. A minute later, another text. They're monitoring our phones. Meet tomorrow. Same place. Bring the drive. Don't tell anyone else. I hide the flash drive inside a hollowed-out highlighter and tuck it into my backpack. Sleep feels impossible as I lie in bed, jumping at every sound outside my window. My mind races through possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. What kind of information was Davis collecting about students? Who was paying him thousands of dollars for it? And why is the school so desperate to keep it quiet? One thing's becoming clear. Whatever Mr. Davis was involved in, it's dangerous enough that people with power are willing to threaten students to keep it buried. And now I've put myself directly in their crosshairs. Tomorrow, Sarah and I need to decide. Hand everything over to the police, or destroy the evidence and pretend none of this ever happened. Either way, nothing at school will ever feel safe again. Sarah and I stand outside the police station, the flash drive burning a hole in my pocket. We debated all morning whether to go to the authorities or destroy everything and pretend none of this ever happened. What if they're involved too? Sarah whispers, her eyes darting nervously to the building's entrance. What if Principal Martinez has connections here? We can't just do nothing, I reply, clutching the flash drive tighter. Davis was collecting information on students and selling it. If we don't stop this, it'll just keep happening. After a deep breath, we push through the doors and ask to speak with someone about a potential crime at our school. The receptionist eyes us suspiciously but directs us to a waiting area. 20 minutes later, a tall woman with short gray hair and tired eyes introduces herself as Detective Henderson. Let's talk in my office, she says, her expression unreadable as she leads us down a hallway. Inside her small, cluttered office, we take turns explaining everything: the locked classroom during lunch periods, Davis's strange behavior, Sarah's discovery of the student files, the flash drive hidden in the ventilation grate, and Principal Martinez's threats. Detective Henderson's face darkens as she examines the flash drive's contents on her computer. This is worse than I thought, she mutters, scrolling through the encrypted folders. We've been tracking similar activity for months, but couldn't pinpoint the source. What exactly was he doing? I ask. She turns to face us. Based on what I'm seeing here and our ongoing investigation, your teacher was collecting and selling student information to identity thieves and other buyers on the dark web. Names, addresses, family details, schedules, photos, everything needed to create false identities or target specific students. Sarah's face goes pale. Who would buy that? Various people for various reasons, none of them good, Henderson replies grimly. Identity theft is the most common. Young people with no credit history are prime targets because the theft can go undetected for years, but there are worse possibilities. My stomach churns. Like what? Henderson hesitates, clearly weighing how much to tell us. Some buyers target specific types of students, affluent families for kidnapping schemes, vulnerable kids for trafficking, or simply to steal financial information from their parents. And Principal Martinez knew about this? I ask, anger rising in my chest. That's what we need to determine, Henderson says, leaning forward. But based on what you've told me, it seems she was at least aware of complaints and chose to ignore them. That's criminal negligence at minimum. She pulls out a folder and shows us several reports. We've received anonymous complaints about suspicious activity at your school over the past year. Each time, Principal Martinez assured investigating officers that everything was fine, just disgruntled students making trouble. She threatened Sarah, I say, told her colleges don't accept students who make false accusations. Henderson's jaw tightens. That's witness intimidation. We'll be adding that to the investigation. She turns her computer screen toward us, showing a series of social media profiles. We believe Davis created these false identities to contact students online. He'd build trust, gather information, and in some cases, manipulate students into meeting him outside of school. I recognize one of the profile pictures, a supposed 16-year-old student named Jake, who had friended several people from our school last year. The profile shows an athletic teenager with dark hair, but something about the image looks slightly off, like it might be AI generated. He used these accounts to map students' routines, Henderson continues, where they went after school, which extracurriculars they attended, when their houses were empty. We found evidence he'd been photographing students outside school grounds for at least 2 years. Sarah suddenly looks ill. The man with the Mercedes, who was he? We believe he's the middleman, connecting Davis to buyers. Based on the payment records you found, they were making thousands every month selling this information. Henderson steps out briefly to make a call, leaving Sarah and I sitting in stunned silence. I feel sick, Sarah whispers. I helped him. I took those photos. You didn't know, I say, trying to reassure her. And you're the one who ultimately stopped him. When Henderson returns, she has news. We've just received a warrant to search Principal Martinez's office and home. We have reason to believe she was receiving payments to look the other way. What happens now? I ask. You two go home and try to return to normal life. Don't discuss this with anyone else yet, not friends, not family. This investigation is ongoing, and the fewer people who know you were involved, the safer you'll be. As we prepare to leave, Henderson adds, one more thing, we'll need formal statements from both of you, but I want to thank you for coming forward. It took real courage, especially knowing the school administration was actively covering this up. Outside, Sarah and I walk in silence for several blocks before she speaks. I keep thinking about all those students in his files. They have no idea their information is out there, being sold to who knows who. At least it's stopping now, I say, though the words feel hollow even as I speak them. That night, I can't sleep. I keep checking my window, expecting to see shadows moving across my lawn again. The anonymous email warning still haunts me. Stop looking. Delete everything. They're watching you now. Was it Davis who sent it, Principal Martinez, or someone else entirely? The next morning, the school is in chaos. Police cars line the parking lot, and officers escort Principal Martinez out in handcuffs as students record everything on their phones. No one tries to confiscate them this time. In chemistry class, Miss Benson seems shaken as she distributes worksheets with trembling hands. Please work quietly, she says, avoiding eye contact with everyone. During lunch, the cafeteria buzzes with rumors. I overhear fragments of conversations, criminal investigation, student information stolen, principal arrested. No one knows the full story yet, but pieces are emerging. My phone vibrates with a text from Detective Henderson. Need to speak with you. Come to station after school. When I arrive, she shows me what they've discovered. Davis had been tracking students for years, building detailed profiles. We found evidence he followed some students to shopping malls, parks, even their homes, taking photos from his car. She pulls up a map on her computer. These red dots show locations where he photographed students outside of school, over 50 different locations across town. The map is covered in red dots. What about the people who bought the information? I ask. Have you found them? We're working on it, she says. The well-dressed man you saw meeting with Davis is our primary lead. His name is Elliot Reeves, and he has connections to several identity theft rings operating across 3 states. She hesitates before continuing. There's something else you should know. We found evidence that Principal Martinez received at least 6 formal complaints about Davis's behavior over the past year. She documented none of them and took no action. Instead, she accepted monthly payments to her personal account from an offshore shell company. I think about how quickly the administration moved to silence everyone after Davis was removed. The announcements, the confiscated phones, the threats. It wasn't just about protecting the school's reputation. They were covering up their own criminal involvement. Will students need to know if their information was compromised? I ask. Henderson nods grimly. Yes, we're preparing notifications now. For some of them, this will have serious long-term consequences. Identity theft can follow you for years. As I leave the police station, I feel a strange mix of relief and dread. Davis is gone. Martinez is facing charges, but the damage they've done will ripple through countless lives. And somewhere out there, people who bought our classmates' information are still at large, armed with personal details about teenagers who have no idea they've been targeted. I text Sarah. It's bigger than we thought. They're going to notify everyone whose information was stolen. Her response is immediate. Do they know we were the ones who turned them in? Not yet, I reply. Henderson is keeping our names out of it for now. But as I walk home, I can't shake the feeling that this isn't over. Davis and Martinez might be caught, but the network they were part of is still out there. And they know exactly who I am, where I live, and what I look like. The news breaks on a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 week after Mr. Davis was escorted from our school. I'm eating breakfast when my phone buzzes with a news alert. Former Westfield High teacher arrested in motel with evidence of student information trafficking ring. I nearly choke on my cereal as I read the article. Police arrested Davis at the Starlight Motel, on the edge of town, where he'd been staying since his firing. According to the report, they found multiple hard drives containing personal information on hundreds of students from our school and others across the state. The article mentions an anonymous tip from concerned students that led to the investigation. "That's us," Sarah texts me immediately. "They didn't use our names." I feel a strange mix of relief and dread. We did the right thing, but there's no going back now. This is real. People will know what happened. At school, the atmosphere is electric. Students huddle around phones in the hallways, sharing news articles and speculating wildly. Teachers seem shell-shocked, moving through the day with stunned expressions. The morning announcement comes from Assistant Principal Winters, her voice trembling slightly. "As many of you may have heard, former teacher Mr. Davis has been arrested. We understand this is disturbing news. Counselors are available for any student who needs support. We ask that you refrain from speculation and allow the legal process to unfold." In chemistry class, Miss Benson looks like she hasn't slept. "Please work quietly on your lab reports," she says, then sits at her desk staring blankly at her computer screen. During lunch, I spot Sarah across the cafeteria. We make brief eye contact, a silent acknowledgement passing between us. We've agreed not to be seen together until the investigation concludes. Detective Henderson warned us it would be safer that way. My phone buzzes with a news update. Principal Martinez placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The article mentions evidence of administrative negligence and failure to report suspicious behavior. I feel a grim satisfaction knowing she can't threaten anymore. Students. After school, Detective Henderson calls me. "Davis isn't talking, but his computers are telling us plenty. The operation was bigger than we initially thought. The well-dressed man you saw, Elliot Reeves, was just a middleman for a larger network." "What happens now?" I ask. "We're building a case. The DA wants to make an example of Davis. They're charging him with multiple felonies, identity theft, trafficking of personal information, exploitation of minors, criminal conspiracy. He's looking at serious prison time." 2 days later, Principal Martinez resigns. The official statement cites personal reasons, but everyone knows the truth. Local news reports that investigators found evidence she'd received over $30,000 in payments to ignore complaints about Davis. The school board calls an emergency meeting to address the scandal. The following week, I receive a subpoena to testify at Davis's preliminary hearing. My parents are horrified when I tell them everything: how I snuck into the school at night, found the flash drive, received threatening emails. My mom wants to pull me out of school immediately. My dad wants to hire a lawyer. I convince them that Detective Henderson is protecting me, that I need to see this through. "You could have come to us," my mom says, tears in her eyes. "You didn't have to handle this alone." I didn't feel alone, I tell her. Sarah and I were in it together. The courtroom is smaller than I expected, with wood-paneled walls and uncomfortable benches. Davis sits at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, looking nothing like the confident chemistry teacher who brought donuts every Friday. His eyes are hollow, his shoulders hunched. When he sees me enter, he quickly looks away. On the stand, I describe everything I witnessed: the locked classroom during lunch periods, the nervous way he checked his phone, how he blocked his computer screen from view, the meeting with the well-dressed man in the parking lot, the frantic behavior during the fire alarm. My voice shakes at first, but grows stronger as I continue. "And what made you suspicious enough to look for evidence?" the prosecutor asks. He changed after Sarah dropped her pencil near his desk. I explain. "It was like he was terrified she'd seen something she shouldn't have. Then, when he was escorted out, he whispered something to her about the ventilation grate." Davis stares at the table throughout my testimony, never making eye contact. His attorney barely cross-examines me, only asking if I'd ever personally witnessed Davis harming a student. I haven't, and I say so honestly. After the hearing, Detective Henderson tells me 5 more students from other schools have come forward with similar stories about Davis. He was doing this for years, moving between districts whenever suspicions arose. Martinez wasn't the first administrator to look the other way. The case makes national headlines. Teacher sold student information in multi-state trafficking operation becomes a rallying cry for better protection of student data. News vans camp outside our school for days, reporters ambushing students for comments. The school brings in security guards to keep them off campus. 3 months later, Davis pleads guilty to avoid a trial. The judge sentences him to 20 years in federal prison. In her statement, she calls his actions a profound betrayal of the sacred trust between teachers and students, and predatory exploitation of vulnerable young people. Principal Martinez avoids jail time but receives 5 years probation and can never work in education again. The well-dressed man, Elliot Reeves, is still awaiting trial, along with 3 others connected to the information trafficking network. The school tries to move on. They hire a new principal who promises transparency and student safety above all else. They implement new security protocols for student information and require 2-factor authentication for all staff accessing student records. They install cameras in every hallway and classroom, a change that feels both reassuring and invasive. But for many of us, school never feels safe again. We know how easily our personal information was stolen, how casually our complaints were dismissed, how thoroughly the administration failed to protect us. Sarah and I eventually start talking openly about our involvement. Some students call us heroes, others say we should have minded our own business. A few parents thank us with tears in their eyes after learning their children's information was in Davis's files. "What you did took incredible courage," one mother tells me. gripping my hand. My daughter's identity was stolen last year. We had no idea where the leak came from until now. With Sarah's encouragement, I start a student advocacy group called Digital Defense that educates teenagers about protecting their personal information online. We create workshops about recognizing predatory behavior from authority figures and the importance of reporting suspicious activities. The new principal supports us, providing space for weekly meetings and even funding for guest speakers. I never wanted to be known for this, Sarah confesses during one of our planning sessions, but if it helps prevent other students from going through what we did, I guess it's worth it. I think about Mr. Davis sometimes, how he seems so normal, so helpful, bringing donuts every Friday and staying late to help struggling students. I wonder if any of that kindness was genuine or if it was all calculated to gain our trust. I wonder if he ever feels remorse for what he did, sitting in his prison cell, or if he's just sorry he got caught. The flash drive that started everything sits in an evidence locker somewhere, filled with the personal details of classmates who never knew how vulnerable they were. Sometimes I still check my window at night, half expecting to see shadows moving across my lawn. Some fears don't disappear just because the danger is gone. But most days, I focus on moving forward, on building something positive from the wreckage of trust that Davis left behind, on making sure the next Mr. Davis doesn't get away with it.